Alright, so this is my participation video for the speed lab. I have 5 of the exercises. Once again, just like last week, I don't have really the equipment or people to help me do it since I am on my own right now. So I'm just going to go over the exercises that I chose. And I do have my notes here, so that's what I'm looking at, just so I know exactly which ones I'm talking about, because I'm not really 100% familiar with all these. These are the first time I've ever heard of these exercises, so I'm still a little iffy on them, but I'm learning, obviously. So my first exercise is the arm action one. I chose this one because it's pretty simple, and I think it's important to know the basics of like the arm movements, because you need arm movements in most exercises you're doing in speed. So this one's the standing exchange one. So for the purpose, is just the arm movement of like learning how to run with it. So one arm's going to be flexed in front of the body with your thumb up, and the other one's going to be behind with your thumb up. Sorry, you can't really see. And then you're going to exchange the arms like a karate chop. So you're just going to go quickly like that to exchange your arms. So, and also the importance is pausing so you can see the exchange and practice the exchange of it. So, there's not really an accommodation for this because it's not that difficult to learn, but I would say for my athlete, if they don't really understand what they're doing, or just to basically tell them why it's important to have this strength and the speed in their arms, because it really helps with speed, and even power helps them get up when they're jumping. They can get higher, and it just helps them overall. So that one's that one. And I also have that if they're advanced, they could practice the arm swings by doing a different movement. So like doing a squat and then standing up and then doing it, just to make it a little bit more active. So my second exercise is the lean and fall run. I have heard of this one. I've never done it. But the purpose of this one is to learn the first step quickness. So really power and speed comes into this one. And the run position. And this also incorporates the arm. So that's why I chose to do arm action first. So they'll be standing with their feet shoulder width their feet width apart, so not shoulder width. They're just going to balance over the middle of their feet and then slowly lean over at their waist, and they're going to fall forward. And their first step is going to be really short, so that's going to be the quickness part of it, like I mentioned in the purpose. And then they're going to, after the first step, sprint forward, and that's going to be about 10 to 20 yards. So it's not too hard. For an accommodation, they can just not run as far, I guess. I feel like the first step is pretty important to learn. So I feel like the beginning of this exercise, the athlete should do, and just make the distance shorter for a beginner. Or for an advanced person, they can go farther, or you can make them do it quicker. If you're a professional or like the coach, you can, just tell them to do it quicker. Let's see. So my next one is the scramble out. So this one is about first step quickness again in the position. So that's why I chose it. So they're gonna be lying down in push up position, and then they'll be scrambling out into triple extension of the ankle, the knee, and the hip. Kind of like when you're doing, I forgot what the exercise is called, mountain climbers. So you're on your push-up position, and then your knees are coming up to your chest kind of position for your full extension. And then you'll have a powerful arm drive just to get your legs up. I believe this is a good power exercise. So for accommodation, the athlete can just do it slower, I guess. I'm trying to really think of a different way for them to do it. Do it slower so they can focus on the basics of it and know the mechanics of it. So if you go too fast and you're not very familiar with exercise, then you may not do it correct. And if you don't do it correct, then there's no point of even doing it, in my opinion. And then for an advanced person, they can do the exercise even faster and maybe add mountain climbers into it to make it a little bit more complicated. or do it on a different kind of turf. So instead of grass, do it on sand so it's not as balanced, so they have to use their core, something like that to make it different. And make sure that their technique is right, because like I said, if your technique's wrong and you're just doing it completely wrong, then there's no point in doing it. So make sure that I would make sure the athlete is doing it correctly. My next exercise is the 2 jumps and go. So they'll start out with their shoulder width apart. So they're gonna drop down and they're gonna flex their ankles, their knees, and their hips. And then their arms are gonna go forward to bring up the power. So just like from the arm action exercise, they'll be using that. And then they're going to jump up, and then again they're gonna land on one foot. And with that foot that they landed on, they're gonna drive off. So this is the first step quickness that we were talking about earlier in the position. And then they're going to push off and sprint a distance that you give them. So like 10 to 20 yards or something like that. So for a beginner, making sure that their jump is, they're flexing their knees and their hips and their ankles correctly, and making sure they get low enough but not too low that they lose their power there. Make the distance shorter for for a beginner, and then have more distance for an advanced person, or maybe add more jumps for an advanced person, maybe 4 jumps instead of 2, or maybe do 1 jump for a novice, or maybe to make it different, you could do a squat and then jump, little like squat jumps. And then my last exercise is the push-up starts. So this one is kind of like scramble, I guess. So same thing with a purpose. It's first step, quickness, and position. So they'll be in the push-up position again, and then on command, so when the coach or the professional whistles or tells them to go, then they're going to they're going to go off the ground into sprinting position with a 4.4 stance. So, and then they're just going to sprint and go. So this requires a lot of body movement to get up off the ground a little bit more, and then sprinting forward. So for a novice, this may or may not be kind of difficult for them, depending on them and maybe their weight or whatever. So they can start in a different position, maybe on their knees. They can start on their knees if they can't hold themselves up. Or, like I've been saying, sprint a shorter distance. If you're a novice, sprint farther. If you're an advanced, or the advanced people can also be doing, since they're in push-up position, they can do mountain climbers while they wait for command, and then as soon as command happens, then they can go. So it just, depends on what the coach wants. There's so many different ways you can do it. But overall, with all my exercises, I would just make sure that my athlete knows the basics and the importance of the basics to learning these. Because without the basics and not knowing the foundation of the exercise, then you can, number one, get injured, but there's no point in doing it if you're not doing it correctly. Because if you're not doing it correctly, you're not getting the full effect of the exercise, and you won't improve on anything. So those are my 5 exercises, and they are all pretty simple, but in my lab I do have harder ones, and hopefully I get to do them soon so I can experience what they are, so that I can know what my athlete goes through. Yeah, that's my video.